Leatherworking is one of those hobbies that you can get into on the cheap. But if you're not careful, you can end up spending money that you don't have to. Here are my top 10 leatherworking items to get you started. First and most basically, you're going to need a bolt of leather, sometimes sold as sides. I recommend going ahead and getting a full sheet, even if you're just getting started. Now, you could go to the hobby store or something like that and get a bag of mixed leather pieces if you wanted to. And that's a great way to get started also. However, working with a bag of scrap pieces is going to require you to find those different pieces and be able to cut out the shapes that you want, or require you to patch things together that you may not have the skill to do yet. That's why I recommend straight off the bat, go ahead and get a decent bolt of leather. It's going to make things a lot easier in the long run. The next thing you've probably already got laying around, and that's a simple box cutter. This is your basic leatherworking tool. New blade every time, very simple, blades are cheap, easy to control once you get the hang of it. There's nothing better for cutting leather. Along with that box cutter, the next thing you're going to need is a strop. Now this is perfect because you can make this yourself and you can actually consider this your first leatherworking project. Take a single piece of leather, cut it, use one side for the rough side of your strop and the smooth side for the other side of your strop. You're going to want to have one of these on hand all the time. You need to be constantly working your blade between projects and between cuts. Very simple. Keep your knife sharp. It's going to work better for you every time. The next thing you're going to want is a hole punch. This is a rotary style that allows you to pick different sizes depending upon what size hole you want to make. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This one here is about 60 years old and works flawlessly. Occasionally I have to touch up the edges, but that's about it. This is simple, inexpensive, and it's going to allow you to punch holes for rivets or other embellishments. Next up is a simple stitch punch. This is a single prong stitch punch here, and I recommend this over one that has 4 or 6 different prongs on it, simply because as a beginner, you can get anything you need done with a single prong. Any pattern that you find on the internet, you're going to be able to match up your hole and not have to worry about the actual size of the prongs versus the pattern, which is going to make things more confusing for a beginner. This is going to get you started and get the job done on any project you're working on. To drive your punch, you're going to need some type of mallet. I advise to get a decent mallet straight off the bat. This one here, though it looks pretty nice, is kind of inexpensive. A lot of the times you can pick these up with other sets, but if you can find one on the cheap, just buy it by itself. A good mallet that's not going to damage the metal on your punch is what you're looking for. Getting a good mallet straight away is going to save you a lot of headache in the long run. So now we're into punching the leather and starting to create some different types of designs, so we're going to move straight to an edge beveler. This one here, again, inexpensive, and is going to give you a nice clean look on all of your leather projects. Beveling and finishing the edges on your leather projects is automatically going to set you above the other amateurs in the hobby. It's going to make your project stand out in a good way. The easiest way to put leather projects together when you're first getting started is with rivets and a decent rivet setter. You can assemble all types of projects with these two simple tools. My recommendation here is to buy quality rivets and to buy an individual quality setter. Some rivet packs come with a cheap setter, which you're going to find is way more work than it needs to be. The size and handling just isn't there like it is with a good quality setter. Spend the extra couple dollars and trust me, you're going to be a lot happier. If you've moved beyond assembling your project with rivets, the next step is thread and needles. The proper needles can be picked up at just about any hobby store, but you're looking for leather needles here. They've kind of got a rounded tip on them. They're not pointed. And they usually come in a pack of 10 for about $2 or $3. You're going to want a bunch of these because, especially as a beginner, you're going to be breaking quite a few of them. The thread that I recommend is braided waxed cordage. You'll find this at any quality leather store. Personally, I recommend the braided style simply because it's going to hold a lot stronger and be a lot easier to work with and be way less prone to breaking like some of the other cheaper, thinner threads. If you're at this point in your leather hobby, get used to hand sewing because that's the name of the game. So at this point, our project should be just about finished. So lastly, I'm going to recommend Pro Dye. My advice, skip everything else on the market, skip all the eco dyes, all that other kind of stuff, and go straight to the pro dye. This is going to be the easiest dye to work with by a long shot. Personally, especially as a beginner, I recommend go ahead and just get black. You can't screw up black dye. You're not going to have to worry about streaking or blotchy appearance because you can always re-dye with black and get a consistent coverage. Once you've mastered how dyes work, how long they take to dry, etc., then you can move on to a brown or mahogany or something different and start working with blending for your own different color designs. So there we go. There's the top 10 items that I suggest any beginner leather worker get into their arsenal straight off the bat. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, you know I'd appreciate that thumbs up like. Feel free to follow us on Instagram and see what projects don't make it to video. And maybe, just maybe, I'll see you on the next video. If you enjoy videos about the randomness of our amazing world, consider clicking on the globe to subscribe, or maybe checking out one of the other videos right here.